Okay, Shavua Tov. So as you can see, we're doing Perek Chav Zayin, chapter 27, which is extremely well known. A lot of it is going to seem, hopefully and thankfully, very, very familiar to you. There are a number of Psalms. I hope we have time to do them all. We did Pei Aleph, which of course is the Psalm for Rosh Hashanah. This, I guess you'd say, is the Psalm for Elul. And it's like, when you go to Beit Knesset these days, especially this morning, I went to an early minyan, a 6 o'clock minyan. I was home before 6:30. It's embarrassing how quick the minyan was. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. Yes, less than half an hour. What happens is at the end of tefillah these days, they blow the shofar. So no matter how sleepy you are, they wake you up. And of course, as soon as they blow the shofar, we read this psalm. So hopefully the next 2 weeks we'll spend on this amazing poem. And then we'll do a couple of other psalms that again are related to Yomim Noraim, to the high holidays. I hope we have time to get a couple in. Before. So of course, let's do the first line. You'll see right away. Welcome home. Bruchim habayim. I really don't mind his hat, but your hat doesn't do it for me. Okay.
When I got this hat, you're not going to believe it.
Where'd you get it?
In Oman.
Oh my God. I feel bad. I don't know if anybody's listening, but she's wearing a hat that says NY, says New York on it. And so you had to go to the Ukraine to get a New York hat. Hopefully I can grab you for a minute after the class. I'm curious how that was. Okay. I continually think about making a trip to Uman, and I never have. Yeah, and my mother's family, actually my brother-in-law's family as well, are from the same little village outside Kiev, just south of Kiev. And I've thought about, there's no way you've heard of it, Zhoshkiv. Yeah, there's no way you've heard of it. Really, it's amazing that, that my sister married a guy from the same village that my mother's family came from. It's, he wasn't from that village. His grandparents were. Okay, so let's begin. And we have to answer the question right away. Why do we recite this poem during this time period? But the beginning of the answer is right in the first pasuk, LeDavid. So it's a poem clearly by King David, and it's characteristic of about half of the poems that King David wrote. King David wrote 2 kinds of poems. This is in the category of, boy, am I in trouble? Okay, which are the ones I really, really love. And then the other is, Isn't Hashem wonderful? And those poems are also amazing. But this is in the category of, I'm in trouble and I need you, Hashem. And that's this. And he begins, this poem is different than many of the poems where David HaMelech was in trouble. In many of the poems where David HaMelech was in trouble, he starts off by saying, Min ha'metza karatika, I'm in trouble. He starts off by saying, Mima'amakim kraticha Hashem, from the depths. He says, I'm really in trouble. And then it gets towards the end where there's a statement of faith. This one starts off with a statement of faith, which is a little bit different in its style from these kinds of poems. And he says, Hashem is Ori v'Yishi. Hashem is both my light, and I'm going to translate salvation. And many of the Meforshim, especially the Midrash, famously in Midrash Sochet Tov, says, Ori, my light, is a reference to Rosh Hashanah. And Yishi, my salvation, is a reference to Yom Kippur. My light is when I'm searching for answers. That's Rosh Hashanah. I'm searching for answers. My salvation is after I have done something wrong, I have faith that Hashem is going to save me. That's Yom Kippur, when we really put ourselves in God's hands with tremendous faith that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to forgive us. That's what Yom Kippur is about. The great gift of Yom Kippur is Yeshua, is the salvation of forgiveness, of Slicha, Mechila, Kapara. Okay? So that's why, according to many Meforshim, that we recite this poem during the month of Elul. It's part of our preparation for the Yomim Noraim. But look at Pasuk Yud Gimel. We're not going to get there today, Bezrat Hashem next week. The first word in Pasuk Yud Gimel is Lulei. And it's not on this sheet, which I apologize. I take it from a website, but it doesn't have dots over it. When you look in the manuscripts of this poem, it has dots over all four of the letters in Lule. And I'll give you another pshat and why there are dots over it next week. But the more famous explanation for why there are dots over it is, read it backwards. And it says Elul. So the dots say this word goes in both directions. It means Lule, if only you're like halavai, right? But it also, read it backwards, it means Elul. And so that's, again, a famous reason why we read this poem in Elul. And that's what the Midrash Socher Tov says. However, we know that our custom, brought down by the Ramah, Reb Moshe Isserles, in the Shulchan Aruch, the Ashkenazi custom, and today a lot of Sephardim do it too, but originally the Ashkenazi custom was to say it all the way through Hoshana Rabbah. Why do we continue reciting the poem? So there are two reasons for this. One is verse 5, hey, ki yitzpeneni b'sukkah, because God hides me in his sukkah, in his sukkah. So there's a reference in the poem to Sukkot. So the custom developed at some time in the Middle Ages. The Midrash Socher Tov was written sometime in the 8th or 9th centuries. So the poem of reading it for Elul started 1,300, 1,400 years ago. We only have evidence of the custom to read it through Sukkot from the 16th century. That's only 500 years old. And again, it was originally Ashkenazic, and that seems to be based on the word sukkah, except for a Hasidic, and I can't remember who it was. There's a Hasidic commentary that says in the second line, so the first line goes, a poem of David, Hashem, O Lord, Ori v'yishi, my light and my salvation, my Rosh Hashanah and my Yom Kippur, mimi ira, from whom should I be afraid? Hashem is ma'uz or ma'oz chayai. God is the stronghold of my life, mimi efchad. From whom should I dread? I'll explain the difference between yira and pachad in just a minute. So one Hasidic interpretation was ma'oz is a reference to the sukkah. Ma'oz, which means a fortress, a stronghold. There are people that say our real stronghold is the sukkah. The flimsy little sukkah is really a sign of our tremendous strength. Because since we're sitting in the embrace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the sukkah, that gives us tremendous strength. That gives us a tremendous amount of security. Okay, please.
Isn't Hoshana Rabbah really the end of the period where we get the final Chatima?
Excellent. That is also from the Middle Ages. The idea that Sukkot is also a time of tshuva is a relatively, in Jewish terms, recent idea. It's not in Chazal. It's not in the Mishnah or the Gemara. That came about later. And it seems like the custom of continuing to read this was sort of simultaneous with this idea of reading it all the way until Hoshana Rabbah. It's not read on Shmini Atzeret. Now, many of you came from America and remember reading it on Shmini Atzeret. That's because, remember, in America, there's an extra day. So they're reading it on Shmini Atzeret because maybe it's Hoshana Rabbah, right? But here in Eretz Israel, where we only have one day and we know the dates, nobody reads it on Shmini Atzeret / Simchat Torah. And it's connected to that custom as well of thinking that there's like a makeup time for tshuva that lasts until Hoshana Rabbah. And that's the essence of the extra prayers we add, the Hoshanot that we add on Hoshana Rabbah. Correct, yeah. But I like this idea that this first pasuk has all three Yom Tovim. Ori is Rosh Hashanah. Okay, Yishi is Yom Kippur. Ma'ozi, that's Sukkot. You think the sukkah is flimsy? You're wrong. The sukkah is the strongest edifice in your life because you're in the hands, the embrace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I think that's very, very beautiful as well. So all three Yom Tovim are in the first sentence, even though throughout most of rabbinic Jewish history, it was only recited from Elul, take a sheet. Okay, from Elul through Yom Kippur. The addition through Hoshana Rabbah was later. Okay, but when you look at the first pasuk, we express two kinds of trepidation. One is Ira, from whom should I be? In both cases, we're saying I'm not afraid. Okay, whenever we have people in Tanakh telling us that they're not afraid, all I can think of is Anna from The King and I, Anna and the King of Siam, that she was petrified, but she whistled a happy tune, right? You just whistle a happy tune and no one will know you're afraid, right? So that's what I think is really going on. King David is telling us he's got darn good reasons to be petrified, but because of his faith in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, he can get rid of those fears. And we have to do that in our own lives. Everybody has things to worry about and to fear, but we have to remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us and follow King David's example. And also, by the way, we see it with Yaakov Avinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him not to be afraid because he was. And we have it also in Yeshayahu, don't be afraid. And so it's very important that when we do have these fears, that we remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what are the two kinds of fear? So I'm going to give you the pshat of the Malbim. Meir Leibush ben Yechiel Michal was a great Rav in the 1800s, the 19th century, and he was a Rav who was both a great Talmudic and halachic scholar, but also wrote on Tanakh. And he wrote on Tanakh specifically to answer a lot of the complaints of the Enlightenment. So in approximately 1840, he came out with a commentary that was completed around 1840 on all of Tanakh. And his commentary is beautiful because he explains the psukim, and in Chumash he explains midrashim too, how midrashim are really pshat, are really the literal meaning of the verses. It's very, very helpful. But especially in Tanakh, he also gives biur hamilim. He also has a dictionary. So here he has a dictionary and tells us, because he writes in his introduction, there's no such thing in Hebrew as nir dafim. What are nir dafim? Synonyms. There's no such thing as synonyms. Whenever King David uses a different word, it's because it means a different thing. So what's the difference between the two? So quoting the Malbim, Yira is a known, seen threat. When you say Yira, and we use Yira about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm in awe, reverence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's because it's as if we can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a reality in our lives. Pachad is dread of the unknown. Pachad may be closer to the concept of phobias. Or phobia, is that the correct? Yeah, phobia. Because you're afraid of something, there's a dread, a tremendous unease that you can't put your finger on. That's pachad. Pachad is something that seizes you, and you have difficulty getting out of it. And King David is saying that his relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu frees him from both regular garden variety fears, but also deep-seated phobia and dread. And that's the pachad. Pachad is something that it grabs you, and you really feel you're in its clutches. Everybody's had it. Everybody's had it periodically, but it's very, it's very bad. Right? Please. That's the Malbim, Meir Leibish Ben Yechiel Michal, writing in the mid 19th century. Okay, but everybody calls him the Malbim. Everybody calls him the Malbim. Yeah. Okay, so that's pasuk 1. That's pasuk 1. Pasuk 2. Bekrov olai mireim. He's getting more specific, and he'll even get more specific in verse 3, okay? He's getting specific. What am I afraid of? There are people who are mireim, who want to do bad things, evil to me. Mireim, people are who want to do bad, okay? Evildoers, that's really how you translate. I don't know what English you might have in front of you, but mireim literally means evildoers. That's exactly what it means. Excellent. Le'cholet b'sarai. They want to literally eat me alive. They want to eat my flesh. Now, I don't think that David HaMelech encountered many cannibals in his, in his experiences. We know, by the way, that Columbus did. When Columbus came to the New World, the Caribs, after which the Caribbean Sea is named, were cannibals. But so we can't take this literally, because to the best of our knowledge in the ancient Near East, there weren't cannibals. So what does it mean? They want to eat my flesh. I'm sorry? They want to kill me, consume me in such a way that everything I've accomplished would disappear. In other words, the way they want to beat me is in a way that everything I've done until this point would no longer exist. Totally destroy me. Totally wipe out any visage of the fact that I had been here. It's a very powerful expression. Tsarai va'oivali hema kashala v'nafalu. Those people who are oppressing me, my enemies against me, they're going to fall, and they're going to stumble and fall. Literally, that's the best translation. Kashalu means stumble. They're going to fail and fall. Many Meforshim say that the second term, fall, means what they plan to do to me is going to happen to them. They're going to get exactly what they thought they had in store for me. And Baruch Hashem, many times in Jewish history, that's happened. And especially to King David, who fought many wars. Now, what's going on in this verse and into the next is that we have 3 terms for those who hate me. Okay? And so so we've got Sarai and we've got Oivai, and later in the poem we've got Tisna. Where did I write Tisna? I thought I underlined it. We'll find it later. Tisna. Where's Tisna? Gimel. Right. Im tchakum alai milcha b'sosa nipa. Oh, what? No, it's not Gimel. Anyways, there are 3 kinds. We'll come across it a little bit later. There are 3 kinds of enemies. Okay, so what are the 3 kinds of enemies? There are Tsarai, Oivai, and Sonai. We don't have the word Sonai, we have the word tisna, those who hate me. They hate, the verb of. So what's the difference between the three? Again, I'm quoting from the Malbim. His pshat is tsarai literally means oppressors and those who are actually doing physical active things to harm me. Tormentors, if you will. Okay. I thought you said dementors at first, a reference to Harry Potter. Okay. No, tormentors, they're doing something right now to really harm me. Oivai. Oivai, which sounds like Yiddish. Okay. Oivai means those people who are they may not be doing anything right now, but they have publicly or in some way stated that they're my enemies. They have said that they want to do evil to me. Evil intention, okay? We usually translate as enemies, but it's open enemies who have declared their animosity for me. That was like Hitler in the 20s. When he wrote Mein Kampf and he gave many speeches about the problems of Germany were caused by the Jews. He was an oivai, and oivei as well, in the 20s, and he only became a tsarai in the 30s. And of course, how much more so in the 40s, okay? So that's those two terms which King David used again. The third one, Sina, is private. This is a person who is your enemy, but you don't know it. They have neither done anything obvious to show that they don't like you, nor have they said anything. These people might actually be phony in their relationship with you. And according to Jewish tradition, these are the most dangerous.
Where is that? Where's the third one?
I thought we had it in the poem because the Malbim mentions it here. Oh, okay. I guess we don't.
It was the last poem we did.
It was in the last poem we did. Yeah.
Verse 6, you got it from Barbara again.
Oivai against whose I wrote, Zivias Rosh Rizam Hashem. Yeah, I apologize. Okay, we had in the last one, but here is where the Malbim explains the three. He brings up the third because it's based on context. However, so what's the third one? The third one is what it's usher to do to fellow Jews. Tisna et achecha b'lvavecha. It says in the 19th chapter of Vayikra. Okay, don't hate a fellow Jew, a brethren, in your heart. Okay. And Sina is in your heart because it's hidden. And that's very, very, I'm sorry?
Verse
11. 11 has it. Harani Hashem darkecha nechem erech mishor l'ma'an shoruroi. Shoruroi is a little bit different. We'll get to shoruroi next week. Yeah. We'll see what shoruroi are next week. Okay. He just brings it up here. But we do have a lot of words for enemies here. It's forbidden to be, and so a lot of Meforshim say, if you have a problem with a fellow Jew, it's okay to be an oyev, to say to them, what you did is really nasty. I really don't like you. What's really forbidden is to harbor it inside and not let them know that you want to harm them. I'm not sure that that's definitely the shot according to everybody, but there are those that say that the more dangerous one is the sone, because they keep it hidden, and that's asur, to have these hidden secret thoughts of evil for a fellow Jew. Okay, so he's got all sorts of enemies that want to do him harm, and it gets to, I guess you could say, like a crescendo of this first section of the poem in verse 3 when he says, Im tachaneh alai machaneh. I look out my window and there are massive camps around my house, my citadel, my fortress. There's all bad guys who are out there to conquer me, to attack me. There is this massive army. There's this huge military camp out there. It's sort of like standing on the top of Mitzada. And you stand on top of Mitzada and you can see the Roman wall, okay, which they call the dike, and you can see the Roman camps, and they're all around you. So it's like you wake up in the morning and oh my God, look at all these bad guys whose only goal is to conquer me, is to take my position, take my community. So if there are enemy camps and camped against me, lo yira libi, my heart is not going to be afraid. Why? Im takum alai milchama, if a war comes up against me, which he did many times. It's a big argument in different midrashic sources, especially in the Sochatov, what King David was talking about. One opinion is it was when he met Goliath, okay? One opinion is it's when he ran away from his own son, Avshalom. But it could be many occasions in King David's life. The Philistines, King Saul, he had, the odds against him many, many times. Bezot ani botayach. I have faith in this. That's the first section of the poem. What is the this that King David has faith in? Right, Hashem, the first pasuk. Right. So in other words, the first three psukim form a unit. He starts off by saying, Hashem is my light, my salvation, my fortress. Who have I got to be afraid of? Then he says, well, I want you to know, I really did have things to be afraid of. But I had faith, bitachon. I felt secure in this. And the this in Pshat is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing all of these wonderful things for him that were mentioned in the first verse. Having said that, there's a wonderful drasha on this verse by the Sfat Emet. Sfat Emet, of course, was the second Gira Rebbe, and lived just outside Warsaw. And he wrote towards the end of the 19th century. His book, the Sfat Emet, is a collection of Divrei Torah he gave between 1871 and his death in 1904. He gives a different shot based on yesterday's Torah reading. He says something fascinating. The mere fact that I am standing on a battlefield means I have nothing to be afraid of. Why? Because in yesterday's Torah reading it said that many people at the beginning of war can go home. If you just built a house, you can go home. If you just planted a vineyard, you could go home. If you just got married, you can go home. If you're afraid, and so the Gemara in Sota says, what were the people afraid of? So the Gemara in Sota says they were afraid of sins. The reason that people would be afraid that the war could kill them was because they had done Aveirot. They were sinners. Now that's what that's what the Mishnah says actually. And then the Gemara asks the question, what sin did they do? What sin bothered them so much? Say it again. Excellent. No, that's not what the Gemara says. That people say that, but the Gemara doesn't. They spoke in shul between Yishtabach and Baruch Hu, between Psuke de Zimra and Berchot Kriyat Shema. They spoke in shul. They thought that there was a section in the shul where they could make a break and have a conversation, and they didn't. Some people add what you said. They talked between putting on the Tefillin Shorosh and Tefillin Shagad. Some people say they talked between Chazar Tashat, the ends of the repetition, and Tachanun. So there are other things there, but the Gemara says they talked between Psuke de Zimra, but very good. They talked in shul. That's the amazing sin that could get them killed in war. Better not to go to shul. What's funny, besides your comment, that was good. What's funny is when you read the Psukim and the Meforshim in Tanakh, especially in Sefer Yoshua, you weren't allowed to go to war unless you were a tzaddik. Unless you were a tzaddik, you weren't allowed to fight in the Jewish army. I find that so funny today. It's like all the Haredim are saying they're not tzaddikim. They don't, because they don't want to go to war. I mean, historically, only yeshiva bachrim would be allowed in the army of Yoshua or David HaMelech. Only yeshiva bachrim were allowed in the army.
Yeah, but there are more. The news says there are more of them coming.
More of them coming into the army. Now, well, hopefully we've worked out a deal with the yeshivot. I hope, because the worst thing is the enmity. That the Chilonim hate them because they don't serve, and they hate the government because they make them serve. We have to get rid of the enmity. I was semi-making a joke here. Please.
There's a beautiful picture I saw this morning on my phone of Meshi Zahav and his son, the soldier. You know Meshi Zahav?
Sure. Right. Right. And his son, or might be grandson.
His son was in uniform.
Wonderful. That's the way it should be. Originally I went to the army as a relatively old man. I was 37 when I went, and they don't even take people like that anymore. But eventually I got switched into a unit that was just people from the Gush. I lived in Efrat at the time, and originally I was in the Air Force for a little bit. I didn't fly F-16s, don't worry. But anyways, I did guard duty on an Air Force base. But anyways, what happened was eventually I got shifted into this unit that was only people from the Gush. And Baruch Hashem, everybody in the unit was Dati. Not only was everybody in the unit Dati, we had Rosh Yeshiva in the unit from Yeshiva Hatzion. Rav Meidan was in the unit, and we had Rebbeim and Rosh Yeshiva in the unit. It was wonderful. And one year we actually did Miluim over Yom Kippur. The davening was amazing. I don't think I ever cried in my tefillot like I did when I was in uniform. That one Yom Kippur, 1994. It was amazing. And it was there was something special about being the sense of, I'm surrounded by tzaddikim. You say to yourself, what am I doing here? You're surrounded by tzaddikim, and you're in the army, and you're davening on Yom Kippur. It really was a Yom Kippur to remember. And that's what David HaMelech is saying. I have faith. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed me to get into the battle means I must have zchuyot, and therefore that keeps me unafraid. It's not pshat, but it's a wonderful drasha from the Gera Rebbe.
You're not totally released, though. You have to provide food and work on the roads. The supply.
Oh, right. There were other.
Your nuns come back.
Yeah, right. They did things that today, or in France, they used to call the corvée. They had a work tax that took the place. Correct. No, that's true. No. They didn't get off scot-free. You're correct. The next section. Okay, we're running. Okay, we should have time. The next section of the poem, because I wanted to do the first half today. So verses Dalet Hey and Vav is a continuation of the first section. Really, the poem splits up into two, and then the two parts. You'll see next week how different the second half of the poem is from the first half. But the second section of the first half begins with the most amazing pasuk. Most of us, when we start to read this pasuk, start to, hum songs, or a friend of mine, Shlomo Mernick, wrote a wonderful fast version of it. I mean, everybody has nigunim for this, because it's such a beautiful, amazing pasuk. So we're still talking about King David's relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The first three psukim are about his confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? These three psukim are basically his greatest aspirations for this relationship, okay? Where he wants this relationship to head. Think about it. Isn't that the basis of every great relationship? First, you think about, what am I getting out of this relationship? verses 1, 2, and 3. And then where do I want this relationship to go? Verses Dalet Hey Vav. It's really, in that sense, amazing in terms of psychology and in terms of human relations. And King David, Baruch Hashem, is our guide telling us we have these kinds of relationships with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not just interpersonal, it's inter-divine relationships, if there was such a word. So one thing I ask from Hashem, that is my true desire. Again, the Malbim. What's the difference between a she'ela and a bakasha? Okay? A she'ela, the best translations are probably question and request. Although it's deeper than that. A she'ela is something that you ask for because at that moment, you want it or need it. It's often something that's a means. For example, someone comes over to you and says, could I have a 20 shekel? And that's a question. And that's a request for something very concrete. But they don't really want the 20 shekel. Then afterwards, they may tell you why they need the 20 shekel. I really want to go to this concert. I really want to buy. No, that's the bakasha. So the she'ela is often the means. The bakasha is always the goal, the ultimate ya'ad, purpose. So King David is saying, in my case, the thing that I'm asking for is not only, the one thing I'm asking for is not only the means, it's also the end. And what is that one thing that I want that's really a request for something relatively concrete, but is ultimately my true desire? And that is, Shivti b'veit Hashem kol yemei chayai. All ultimately we want from HaKadosh Baruch Hu is proximity. We want this sense of nearness, of connection, of belonging with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I think the people that we really love, it's true about them too. In other words, we have friends. This is the friend that I like to have a good time with. If this is the friend I like to go fishing with. I don't go fishing, but I mean, there's the guy I go to ball games with. But then there's the deeper friends that sometimes like a really close friend, and of course, hopefully a spouse. You can sit there and do nothing because all you want is to be with them. So what he's saying is, I want to be with you, and that's what I'm asking for. But that's really all I want. You don't have to do anything. I just want to be there. The sense, and that for me is the most important pasuk in Ashrei. Karov Hashem l'chol karav l'chol asher yikru ve'emet. I know people say potech et yadecha, but for me, potech et yadecha, open your hand and give me all that I need. For me, that's a she'ela. That's a means. Give me the means. The ultimate goal is I just want to be karov. I just want to be close. I want to feel that when I daven, it's not so much that when I daven that I'm getting what I asked for. Tefillah isn't a game of fish. Remember when we used to play fish? Oh, got what I wanted, right? That's not what tefillah is. Tefillah is you just want to feel close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's karov Hashem l'kol karov l'chol shigrim. Please.
It has the word feel in it.
To feel. Or to feel, hey, Hashem, ooh, very nice. Wow, you're ready to make signs and things. Very good. Okay, that's what tefillah is. That's what tefillah is. Okay, and then it says, lachazot b'noam Hashem. So I just want to see, have a vision of. Lachazot is a term that means sight, but it's like mind's eye type sight. Okay, I want to see in terms of to understand and to have a vision and have imagine chazon is one of the terms that's used in Tanakh for prophecy, a chazon, a vision. So I want to see, but the see is more than sight with the eye. I want to get a vision, an understanding. I want of the Noam Hashem, of the pleasantness of Hashem. Ulavaker beheichalo. Okay, Rashi. Rashi is not so famous in Tanakh. There are a lot of Meforshim in Tanakh, and Rashi's a little bit stylistically different in Tanakh than he is in Chumash, and even in the Gemara. So he's not usually the go-to guy when you're learning Tanakh. A lot of people, when they want to get like basic idea of what's going on in Tanakh, they'll do the Mitzudat David, the Mitzudat Sion. Okay, I was talking about the Malbim, whom I love. However, in this pasuk, Rashi hits the nail on the head. Ulavake behechala. So what does Rashi say? Le'ra'ot sham b'chol boker uboker kach perisho Donash. Donash ibn Labrut was a famous Hebraist who preceded Rashi. And Rashi, even though he lived in Spain, but Rashi got his writings. And so he says, I want to be seen levaker every morning. The root is the word boker, morning. So levaker means to be a regular in the house of God. It doesn't mean to make a one-time visit. This is going to Donash ibn Labrut. We're going to see another translation in a minute. Okay? I want to be a regular in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's house, in which Heichalo, apparently we're talking about the Beit HaMikdash. Remember, part of what King David might be asking for in this pasuk is the right to build the Beit HaMikdash. Remember, he eventually is denied. He bought the land and built the foundations, okay, and gets some credit. Don't we say, Haracham Yakim Sukkah David, right? He gets some credit because he began the process, but he couldn't actually see the final version while alive. So that's the first shot. I want to go, and I want you to know, based on this, some people say that the king was the only non-Kohen who was allowed in the Azara section, the inner courtyard section of the Beit HaMikdash. The king, and there were times apparently when there was actually a throne there for the king. So the king could come and watch the proceedings. He couldn't participate. But the king, assuming he went to the mikveh, I mean, he had to be tahor. He can't go there straight from a battle or something, Khalila. But so that may be connected to this pshat, that the king can be a regular in the Beit HaMikdash. Isn't that what we want? To be regulars in the Beit HaMikdash? And then the second, Menachem, another Spanish, Sephardi commentary and Hebraist and linguist says, no, he wrote, Im lo yevaker ben tov l'ra. I want to go there. I don't want to be a regular visitor. That was Donash ibn Labrut. Rabbi Menachem said, I want to go there just to contemplate so like bikoret. What's bikoret mean? Criticism. Here we don't mean it in the sense of criticism, I mean in the sense of I want to just go there to contemplate. I know that my life doesn't always have clarity, but if I can go there, I may achieve the clarity I'm looking for. So Rashi brings down both pshatim, okay? And then he says, Aval Donesh patal lashon boker. But Donesh, he was the one, he said it's the language of mourning, and he ends with that. Now this Rashi gives two pshatim because they're both wonderful, and then he slightly leans towards the first one, which means to visit it on a daily basis, every morning. So that's what's going on in terms of ulavakir behechala. Okay. Ki yitzpeneni besuko, because or that Hashem hides me in his sukkah b'yom ra'ah on a bad day. In other words, again, a bad day doesn't necessarily mean enemies, which we're going to be in verse 6, but I can go there and have this sense of safety, okay? And I have this sense of being hidden. Where do we use the word tzadi pei nun to mean hidden? You all know. Safun. The afikomen is hidden. So we're going to talk about the difference between the word hidden and the second half of the verse. Yastireni bitseiter ohalo. He's going to hide me. What's the difference between the two kinds of hiding? What's the difference between the two kinds of hiding? And again, I'm going to be quoting from the Malbim. The Malbim, good morning, says, Yitzpaneni just means to be hidden from sight. In other words, you know, I forget the term. What was it when with babies, you go, like this, and they think you're really not there? Yo, peekaboo. I know that term. I know. There's a no, I can handle peekaboo. No, there's a psychological term that for when babies up to a certain age, if they can't see something, they think it doesn't exist. Yeah, it's hide and go seek, but there's a technical term for it. I don't remember the technical term. Okay, so that's yitzpaneni. You can't see me, and okay. Yastireni means truly hidden or secret, unknown, perhaps even unknowable. We talk about Torah as having two parts to it. I know, and sometimes we talk about the written and the oral, but I don't mean that right now. Sometimes we talk about Torah having the nigla and the nistar. Nigla is something that people should be able to get. Nistar is something that's really, it's there, but truly hidden. And we need a guide to get to the nistar. Okay, the nigla we may be able to do on our own. Nistar, you need really the initiated to help you, get there. And so what he's saying back to the pasuk, ki yitzbeneni besuko, that Hashem, the sukkah is just, it covers me. It shows, you can't see me because the sukkah is around me, right? Okay? Beyond ra'ah on a bad day, and therefore I feel a certain level of safety and security. Yastireni b'seita o'alo. But he can really hide me in a way that the rest of the world can't get to me. And some Meforshim say that means that we Jews tend to often know certain things that the rest of the world doesn't know. That Hashem, not only hides us, but reveals to us that we know some of the nistarim. And, sometimes we share it and the world gets it, but sometimes it's really just us. Sometimes it's really just us, the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And think back to your youth a little bit. Wasn't there something special when you shared a secret with somebody? Wasn't that sometimes a symbol of having a very special relationship? I have a very special friend. And quite often, those friendships are blown up when they share your secret, and then boom, it's all over. But we're not going there. That's a topic for another day when I remember, the bad times of my youth. We'll do that another time. But anyways, so what happens is this is something that's special in relationships. It's a trust, right? I can share this with X. Okay, hopefully this is something, spouses can do, right? But think back, but it's clearer sometimes when you're kids, this is a friend that I could tell things to, and have that trust and have that security with them. And then this verse ends, Bitsoy Romani. By the end of this experience, I feel uplifted on a great rock. The great rock is, of course, sometimes a reference to Hashem, And sometimes it's a reference to our faith in Hashem. And of course, whenever I think of rock, I think of the Prudential Insurance Company, right? You think of the Rock of Gibraltar, right? Put your faith in the rock, right? So again, that's what's going on there. And then verse Vav ends the first part of the poem by returning back to more obvious and physical dangers. And now raise up my head above these enemies who are all around me. Now, Svivotai means something more than just all around me. It's the Sivivon Sav. They're going around me. It's not just that they're all around me. They're like circling me. My image of Oyevai Svivotai is when I was a kid, the old Westerns, right? You've got the wagon train and the Native Americans, they never called them Native Americans in those cowboy movies. But okay, the Native Americans were riding around them, and that's like Svivotai, right? They're going around and around me. And that's that sense of danger. But you are raising me up above the fray. The Ezbecha, and now David gets back to being more concrete. This is about, of course, all of these references to Ohel, Sukkah, Heichal, all terms which are used for the Beit HaMikdash, of course. Ve'ezbecha be'ohalo. I am going to bring offerings in Hashem's tent. Zivchei tru'ah. These are going to be offerings of joyous singing, noise, tru'ah, okay? Ashira. Va'azamra Lashem. When I bring these offerings, I am going to, literally these two words mean recite poetry. Shira in biblical Hebrew means poetry, the lyrics, okay? Va'azamra is the music, okay? La Hashem to Hashem. So it could mean that the words go to the music. They're the lyrics. The Shira is the lyrics, and the Azamra is the music, okay? You've got Hammerstein with the lyrics and Rogers with the music, right? Okay? Or Lerner and Lowe, or whatever people you grew up enjoying, okay? I was into Rogers and Hammerstein, but it doesn't make any difference. But that's what a Shira and a Zamra means. And this is all La Hashem. So we've got two parts to the poem in the beginning, and they show tremendous faith, joy in the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The first part, salvation from bad stuff. The second part, the closeness and the sense of security from the closeness of that relationship. The cemented relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the second three verses. And this is the beginning of a poem where David HaMelech has tremendous faith and sense of security in his relationship with Hashem. That's all going to change next week. It's all going to change next week. I'm not coming next week. No. It ends on a high note. Don't worry. But next week, David is going to, and if you get a chance to look at the poem, notice in this beginning part, he has not talked to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all references to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the third person. He's not talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The entire second half of the poem, he's addressing Hashem. The first word in the second half of the poem, Shema, listen to me, please. He's starting to talk to Hashem. So the both parts are very beautiful, but you could even think that the two parts with two different poems were put together. It's not true. That's why all of the underlinings in the poem show that the poet, David HaMelech, repeats certain terminology to show you the themes haven't changed. This is still me. One last note before we end, as I'm literally running out of time. If you count up, I put Yud K Vav K. Oh no, I didn't. I tried to, but I didn't. Okay, I guess I failed. I meant to embolden it. Okay, so you could count them. Yud K Vav K appears in the poem 13 times. So of course there are many Meforshim that say that the poem, reciting this poem, is another way of saying the Yud Gimel Midot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Reciting this poem is another way of expressing your faith in Hashem, as we have in the 13 attributes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, next week, the climax of the poem. Everyone should have a Shavuot of a wonderful, wonderful week.